I have a problem. And when you have a problem, what do? That's right, you complain on the internet. And when it comes to WoW, a game stretching the majority of most of your lifetimes, there's been plenty of mistakes to complain about. I could make an entire video on the Disneyfication of WoW or the addition of the WoW token, and I'd especially love to have a private conversation with whoever's responsible for letting these things roam free. Personally, I think we should gather them all up with the Worgen and pull a Theramore 2 electric boogaloo. The War Within by almost every measure is fantastic so far. The new zones make me feel like I'm playing Elden Ring, the new hero talents are a ton of fun, and the new allied race needs no introduction.
Hey, give it back, that's private!
Who is this? Your brother?
That is my wife.
But by far, my biggest problem with this game is just getting any of my buddies to give it a try. Such a long-running game has an equally deep reputation. And by that I mean, there are hardly any gamers at all who haven't heard of the title and at least formed a half-baked opinion about it.
But the first time you got the call that you could play Superman, what was your reaction?
I was playing World of Warcraft at the time. I had my priorities straight.
Unfortunately, it seems that 4 words are responsible for holding back the countless gamers who would otherwise be willing to give the game a try. Those 4 words being subscription model and time sink. As a WoW player myself since 2007, the very concepts of paying $15 a month to continue and wasting time have become as regular to me as breathing. But for the modern gamer, why would they ever consider that when they have countless free-to-play titles to pick from that let them instantly join matchmaking? They didn't start playing the game before the majority of their frontal lobe had developed like the rest of us, so they're immune to the Stockholm Syndrome. What's left to compel them? Well, in 2007, when I joined, the answer to that question was, ironically, ease of access.
Got to sign in? Character name? All right, I'm in.
In a sea of extremely harsh penalties for dying, unintuitive systems, lack of direction, high-end graphics requiring expensive computers to run them, World of Warcraft offered the opposite. Its ease of access has played a very crucial role in its popularity.
And all that reflection left me thinking, is the modern day World of Warcraft even meant to be casual friendly? Or is it intentionally dragging its feet in the gameplay philosophy of the past? Is the definition of what makes a good MMORPG in 2004 the same definition that we have today? The answer to all 3 of these is obviously not. The definition of casual friendly as it pertains to gaming has changed dramatically over the last 2 decades, especially for the MMORPG genre. But nowadays, getting into WoW from square one can be pretty difficult, especially if you want to set foot into PvP. It used to be so easy. We used to just hit max level, then you do Battlegrounds, get Honor, and buy Honor gear. Then you play Arenas, get Conquest, and buy Conquest gear. What was Blizzard smoking when they decided that instead of that system, after hitting level 80, to gear for PvP you have to accept this quest at the very beginning or permanently behind the curve for at least a month, accept all these weekly quests too, pray to God the comp stop is available, do Battlegrounds, get Honor, buy Honor gear, do World PvP, buy World PvP gear in place of every Conquest item that doesn't have your best stats, make crafting gear pieces, add extra passive effects, then you do Arenas, then you get a free tier piece, 1600 CR, then you buy your 2 sets of Conquest, then finish buying your last 3 Conquest gear until you remove the cap in a few months.
Let me guess. You're home?
It was. And it was beautiful.
As an esport, the AWC has never really been all that popular. And how could it be? As a new player, it's impossible to tell what's going on. If the wrong caster is announcing, then they might not even know any more than you do. And if you want to give the game a shot to try to understand it from the inside out, then you gotta be ready to fork over $65 and literally about 100 hours to even begin to get a foothold in any given meta. Even when I try to break down the content to make it more understandable and digestible, you still get people like this.
TLDR, get a PhD to play a garbage game mode in a 20-year-old tab target game. No thanks, XD.
You're always gonna have haters on any kind of content upload, but this one has a point. For a lot of people, that will be the general takeaway. Think about literally any other bracket of WoW content. Leveling, dungeons, raids, profession grinding, role-playing, pet battles, transmog, and mount farming, there is not a single other activity in the entire World of Warcraft that requires you to know half as much information to compete. Even if you happen to be somebody who does have all the information and all of the gear, it still might not matter because there's no real matchmaking system in this game. If you're not either a big streamer or playing a healer, then you could spend 30 to 45 minutes waiting for a solo shuffle or battleground blitz queue to pop. You also have the option of getting denied from arena groups for half an hour, but you can't do that while queued for a blitz, so pick your poison, I guess. Because of this, WoW PvP is easily the least popular endgame pillar of content. And that is a tragedy. I'm just saying if the arena didn't exist, I wouldn't have bought the last few expansions. And I know I'm in the minority of players for saying that. I'm sure there are plenty who feel the same way for Mythic Dungeons or raiding. I'm just the type of player that skips all the quest text and every cutscene so I can get to the endgame faster. I even feel incentivized to do so by Blizzard because of the game time treadmill that they make everybody run on. After running the campaign quests once on my main, I dungeon queue from 70 to 80 on every other ult. This might sound like blasphemy to you, but believe me when I say, there's a sizable chunk of the player base that agrees with me. Leveling isn't fun. This is deduced by the sheer scale of players who spend real-world money on gold so that they can get boosted through the content. I think leveling might be an outdated concept. Once you hit max level and play through the main story once, there's no reason to repeat it other than Blizzard wants you to waste time to have fun instead of letting you waste time by having fun. You know, like the entire point of video games. Maybe there's an argument to be made for players spending more time in the game when their time is respected and they're enabled to play what they like. Who knows? All I know is from a gameplay perspective, leveling is so bad it's not worth doing. The people who like the story will do the quest anyways, but until you reach the current expansion's leveling content, you will level every 10 minutes and get weaker with every level due to scaling. You level so fast that your gear has no chance of staying relevant, so gear is meaningless, and since it's all scaled to your level, the numbers you do are meaningless too. It's not even a good tutorial because you'll miss so many core spells for the majority of your journey. It makes it feel like Blizzard only makes content for the endgame, and they patchwork the leveling system afterwards. I think that's why so many people enjoy the Classic Era and Season of Discovery versions of the game. You aren't forced to rush through an agonizingly long tutorial to reach the real content. Instead, newborn, diaper-wearing, soft-skulled babies are dropped directly into the same content that 80% of the player base are also playing through. And that's where the game begins. Nowadays, Classic Realms might be all about world buffs and raid logging, but it wasn't always like that. The problem with modern WoW, boiled down to one word, is accessibility. There are no in-game tutorials for PvP. Nothing in-game tells you about the existence of gladiator mounts or KSM mounts to even encourage you towards those directions, and there is so much necessary information missing from the default UI. Then you have the community, which is very gatekeepy about helping other players, especially new players because of the way that the abysmal queue system works. And even if all these things weren't true, it still takes somebody that $65 plus 100 hours to even get a feel for it. I think any competitive scene has a problem when fucking League of Legends is more approachable to a new player. I only make that point to emphasize that having 13 classes with 2 to 4 specs each and 25 abilities to each of those specs is not the reason we don't have new players. PvP, pushing keys, and mythic raiding are all fun. But the skill floor can be insanely high. The skill ceiling can be out of sight, and the asking price for the right to experiment with that gameplay to more easily reach the skill floor is another 10 hours of leveling an ult. Then you spend countless more gearing that new ult. It's really difficult to ask a new player to be willing to go through all of that. But then on March 19th, 2024, we caught a glimpse of the answer with Plunderstorm.
Everything, down to the last minute details.
I've never been more tickled as a WoW enjoyer, because on one hand, it's like, holy shit, class balance changes for raids will never reach me. I can just click one button from the login screen to enter a game. This combat is so easy to understand. I think I might give that a try, or I might try this. I don't even have to buy the expansion to play this? But on the other hand, I just wish it were this easy for real World of Warcraft. When you ask the question, what's the problem with WoW? The real answer is buried in numerous layers of meta-analysis and nuanced takes referencing the last 20 years of gameplay. I love the arenas, and I don't ever want to see them replaced by something like Plunderstorm. But there are countless conclusions to be drawn from it as an experiment, and frankly, I would do unspeakable things to see its return. Blizzard, if you are listening, please give me Plunderstorm back with a Winter's Veil themed snowmat by December, and all will be forgiven. I promise, Blizzard, please just give me a snowmat by Plunderstorm. I
need it. I need it.
I don't have many numbers to go off of, but even though Plunderstorm didn't compete with the Race to World First in viewer count, Zaryu's Plunderstorm tournament trended about the same as the AWC tends to. This and the Creator Clash were both with almost no build-up or announcements at all, and stirred up a ton of people for what was basically a closed beta. Why was this newcomer to the scene able to basically on release compete with the AWC in numbers when the AWC has been going on for almost 2 decades? Well, I think you know the answer. Accessibility. Very fun, very low skill floor, moderate skill ceiling, extremely easily accessible. Pay for access, load in, play the game. That's it. Mission accomplished. Now you get to have fun. All on a single $15 purchase, just like 2004. The only real problem I saw with Plunderstorm was that it didn't make Blizzard enough money. And trust me, that's not my highest concern here, but there are very few other reasons that I can think of for why Blizzard removed the game mode. I want to believe that they kept it to WoW subs only instead of free to play to maintain somewhat of a closed beta scenario. Ideally, this would allow them to fix issues that WoW fans had and then re-release it as a shinier, improved version to monetize later. But knowing Blizzard, we really can't say for sure. But one thing I can say for sure, knowing Blizzard, is that they do like money.
Do I have a deal for you?
And they might just be sitting on the largest unrealized golden goose opportunity that they've ever had. Now, is that copium? Maybe, but hear me out here. What I want and what Blizzard wants aren't all that different. I want more people to play this game because I think that WoW PvP is seriously the GOAT. Nothing has ever been able to scratch the same itch as this game for me. Blizzard just wants people like me to spend time and money on the game. Problem is that they disrespect the time of their players so much that most potential new players don't want to invest themselves in such a deep mud just to approach the fun stuff. And honestly, it's very often that time-gating content gets active players to deactivate their sub from just waiting too long on the next wing of content to unlock. Many people would rather quit than experiment because of how boring it is to grind out a new ult. And that's bad game design. Leveling is just treated as a barrier to entry in retail because all of the actual content is in the endgame. I doubt they'd ever consider this stuff, but for the sake of trying to get new players in the game, I have a few ideas to make the endgame more accessible. PvE players already have AI follower dungeons and delves. Starting with Mythic Zeros and having lower tiered raids are great for them to practice, but how are PvPers supposed to practice? Dueling? Well, sure, but we also need to make CompStomp permanent and add AI arenas to the game as well. If you're new and just spam arenas with randoms for practice, then you're likely to nuke your win-loss ratio for the season, and that'll make it infinitely harder for yourself to get into future groups. Complain about it on the forums and you'll just get told that clearly the problem is that you didn't level an identical character alongside your entire journey so that way you can care less about your rating. The worst part of a new expansion, in my opinion, is leveling your ult army. I'm often even dissuaded from logging into the game because of how badly I don't want to participate in content that I hate that seemingly only exists to time gate me from the content that I enjoy. I suck at coming up with names for things, so let's just call this idea Max Mode. After reaching the max level and completing the campaign on at least one character, I think you should gain the ability to create a Max Mode character that starts at the same max level with full green crafted PvP or PvE gear. Ideally, each spec should get a short mini tutorial upon creation, similar to the boat scene when you make a new level 1 character now. Of course, these max mode ults would have to come with some restrictions so that both can't be abused by bots and also still leave a reason to level in the first place. I'm thinking max mode characters should be unable to participate in any professions or non-instance content with the exception of things like dueling or world quests. Whatever is necessary to keep bots from abusing this to make gold. This feature should only exist to help the player base at large play the part of the game that they actually enjoy more. That said, I can't speak much for raiders and key pushers, but WoW PvPers are eating better right now than any other time in WoW history. Blizzard is trying to address the solo queue issues with varying results. Honor is easily transferable to your ults, and all PvP gear can be earned by PvPing. These are incredible changes over the years that I'm grateful to have seen, but there's no reason to ever stop pushing the envelope and improving. The same way that Blizzard pushed the envelope by stretching out of the RTS genre and pummeling everyone's expectations on what a good game should be. So as good as it is to be a hardcore retail PvPer right now, we gotta keep an eye out for the casuals too. So let's reintroduce the gateway drug called Plunderstorm, make it free to play, and then add a battle pass directly tied to the sub model. And if you just winced at the word battle pass, then I'm gonna need you to get it together, big guy, because this could resuscitate the whole scene. Tied to the sub model means if you pay your $15 monthly, you'd get anything in this hypothetical battle pass anyways. This is the final piece of the puzzle. Plunderstorm could be the most beginner-friendly way to get people into WoW. Imagine the situation that you were in when you first started playing the game. Long ago, before the Stockholm Syndrome fully set in. Nearly 20 years ago, your biggest problem with the game was getting the battle chest and then scraping $15 a month together to play it. How cracked out would you have been back then if you could have played for free? Well, it's not 2004 anymore, and MMOs aren't as popular as they used to be. That said, it's also not 2016 anymore, so while Battle Royales might not be the biggest thing, they are still far from relevancy.
What a fucking...
In most games, you purchase the battle pass and you get some paid currency, an emote, maybe a few skins. One of those skins might even be good if you're lucky, and then that's it. Well, imagine this scenario as a new player in Plunderstorm with a pass tied to the submodel. You start playing for free because the game is fun, and then boom, you got killed by somebody with a cool skin from the battle pass. Oh well, might as well drop $15 on it, you might think. You purchase the battle pass, you get a cool new dance emote, a few outfits, maybe some trader's tender, or a new paid currency for a plunder shop, God forbid. But then, that's not it. You didn't just purchase a treasure chest, you've opened Pandora's box. More and more and more value just keeps flying your way. You didn't just purchase a skin for this nifty new Battle Royale game mode, no. You purchased full access to the entirety of the World of Warcraft. Not only are all of your outfits and cosmetics and dances available for use in this MMORPG that you didn't even mean to purchase, but there could be more activities within that world that unlock even cooler cosmetics for you to use back in the Plunderstorm VR. This could create a symbiotic relationship between the different versions of the game, where they encourage you to earn rewards in each other instead of the parasitic relationship we have now, where Classic, SOD, Kata, and Retail are all competing for players in completely unrelated content. I might be exaggerating when I say this, but I feel like this could breathe so much new life into the game by refreshing the player pool. You would not believe what some players are willing to do for the right transmog. All that said, I'm not a game designer, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me. I'm just a diehard WoW player who's grown infatuated with the scene, and I want to see all corners of the game continue to grow. I just noticed a few problems that I have with the game, and I kind of wanted to talk about them. I don't know if my solutions are realistic or even entirely desired by the community, but I'm very interested to know what you think. Do you want to see Plunderstorm return? Is my suggested max mode option a horrible idea? Or maybe you think leveling is actually already too fast? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comment section below, and while you're there guys, please hit that like, subscribe, and bell icons as they really help me out a ton, and I really appreciate it.